take this mask off, just in case not be heard. Good evening, everyone. Please be seated. I now call upon the Chief Executive to read the notice convening this extraordinary meeting of the Council. Chief Executive.
You are summoned to attend an extraordinary meeting of the Council of the City of Sunderland to be held in the Beacon of Light, Stadium Way, Sunderland, on Thursday, 13th January at 6 p.m, at which it is proposed to consider and transact the business as set out in the agenda.
Do any members of Council have any declarations of interest? Doesn't look like it. No.
No.
The apologies have been listed outside on the wall. Are there any apologies from the room? No. High Sheriff, honourable guests, councillors and members of the press and the public, on behalf of my council colleagues, may I extend to you all the warmest of welcomes to this notable civic occasion. The granting of the honorary freedom of the city is the highest honour the council can bestow upon those who have rendered eminent service to the city. It is therefore with particular pleasure that I welcome the Sunderland Associated Football Club 1973 FA Cup winning team members. This proposal is in recognition of their achievement and the enduring pride and respect that the people hold for the team. My thanks to the High Sheriff for their attendance, and I also welcome the family members of the recipients who have been able to join us today. Thank you very much. I will now call upon the Leader of the Council, Councillor Graham Miller, to move the resolution as set out in the notice convening this extraordinary meeting of the Council. Councillor Miller.
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I will now call upon Councillor Williams to second the motion. Thank you. I understand that Councillor Michael Dixon wishes to speak to the motion. Do any of the members of Council also wish to speak?
Nope.
No. Leader, would you like to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to propose this evening that the honorary freedom of the City of Sunderland is conferred upon the Sunderland Association Football Club 1973 FA Cup winning squad members. The esteem in which these gentlemen are held, and have been held for almost 50 years, is unparalleled in this devoted, football-loving city, and I am delighted we are finally able to be here together this evening to celebrate their achievements and formally recognise how very much they mean to the City of Sunderland and its people. Sunderland and the Sunderland football team get under your skin like no other, and as a man born and bred in Leith, duty-bound to support the mighty green machine that is Hibernian Football Club, I was born 450 yards from the ground. I speak from experience because today, and for over 3 decades now, since my family and I moved here in 1992, it's the Sunderland team that has my heart and my unwavering support through thick and thin, though we'll not talk much about the Lincoln game. So although 49 years have passed since that glorious trophy was lifted, I understand completely how the pride, passion and joyous memory of that magnificent day and incredible achievement have not dimmed one bit, either for the supporters and indeed the vast majority of Sunderland people or the squad members themselves. The proof is in the groundswell of public support when Council made the decision to confer the honour at our meeting in November 2020, and the arrangements the players have readily made, including international travel for some, to be here this evening. And that in turn signifies the wider and enduring significance of the Cup win and what it took to achieve it, in terms of the example set and the inspiration it creates for several generations now, and I have no doubt for many generations to come, whatever the fortune of the current and future teams. I hardly need advise anyone here tonight or watching at home that winning a coveted football cup or indeed any trophy, sporting or otherwise, doesn't just happen by chance, and it's rarely down to one person or even a few. In the case of the 1973 FA Cup, it was a result of a season-long campaign and years of focus, dedication, hard work, passion for the game, commitment and gratitude to the supporters by those on the pitch and supported by many more behind the scenes that made it possible. And so, in much-deserved recognition, on 21st of January 1974, the whole football club was awarded the honorary freedom of the borough, as it was then, alongside an individual award to the legendary manager who led the campaign, Bob Stokoe. But increasingly, in the years since, I think we have very much come to see and understand in society that whilst every great sportsperson and team has a much bigger team behind them, it's what happens in that moment, on the pitch, on the court or the track, whatever and wherever, through the sheer grit, courage, endurance, devotion and sacrifice it takes to earn a place there that ultimately creates the magic. So here we are, not before time, honouring the true city heroes of the 1973 Cup-winning squad as individuals this evening, having already awarded the honorary freedom of the city to Jimmy Montgomery in 2016 in recognition of his contribution to Sunderland and the esteem in which he is held by denying dirty Leeds an equaliser. Let's get that right. And now, similarly, the awards this evening recognise the achievements and significant contribution to the city of those other wonderful and inspirational gentlemen. And with that, Mr. Mayor, it is my huge honour to propose that the honorary freedom of the City of Sunderland is conferred upon the members of the Sunderland Association Football Club 1973 FA Cup winning squad in recognition of their achievement and the enduring pride and respect that the people of Sunderland hold for them. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. I understand that Councillor Michael Dixon wishes to speak to the motion. Do any other members also wish to speak? Do we bring the leader in now? Councillor Williams, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to welcome our honoured guests. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. I hope you really enjoy this event. I'd also like to welcome officers and colleagues who've enabled this event to take place. A little bit about me. I grew up in a household where we didn't know what football was, and it wasn't until Sunderland were getting well on within the cup final that my family moved from Elvis to Sunderland at that point. Really, really strange. So for the majority of my life, I didn't particularly understand what football was. Then I got married, but to somebody from the other side. So I got pretty sick of that. But one thing I do have is this cup final, which my son found very recently when going through some memorabilia in the house. So I do have a cup final programme, which is excellent. The date would be indelibly marked on many fans, and that was the 5th of May 1973 at 3 p.m. By the final whistle, Sunderland AFC were the winners of the coveted FA Cup final. Then Sunderland were playing in Division 2 and took on Leeds United. As underdogs, there were those who absolutely believed Leeds would walk it. Read a number of different précis of the match, and very much it was, Sunderland aren't going to get anywhere. So it was absolutely wonderful to hear that. But the dedication, commitment and tenacity of the team, and they played together magnificently to deliver for themselves, for the fans and for our city. Ian Porterfield scored the winning goal, and Jimmy Montgomery saved many, many shots on goal, but the whole team were never less than their best. I'm sure there are many here who could describe the match blow by blow and still have that absolute sense of pride. Even those of us who weren't, well, I was born at this time, but those of you who actually weren't born at this time, I'm pretty sure this has gone down in folklore, and it's told at grandfather's knee. This is our wonderful team. I hadn't actually realised either that Bob Stokoe had only been manager for 6 months when he led them to victory. His statue is pride of place round the corner, and there are many, many happy fans who will always be grateful to him. Bear in mind, another local rival team last won this accolade in 1955. So Bob was quoted as saying, "I didn't bring the magic, it's always been here, and I just came back to find it." Well, thanks for helping find the magic, and let's find it again, team. Perhaps you can think about where you were, what you were doing, and just reflect on how that happened. I was at school, and I remember going in on the Monday morning, and everybody was like, "Oh, did you see it? What was happening? Weren't they fabulous?" This sort of thing. And that open-top bus that went all over the city and pulled in huge crowds, an absolutely amazing sight. I was showing this programme to my grandson, who's 13, and he was having a read-through. He is a football supporter, and he said, "Did they all smoke?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "There's adverts in here for tobacco." And I suppose you don't get that these days. It was really strange. The constant, though, is the red and white stripes, very classy red and white. So the freedom of city is a pleasure to bestow on these gentlemen with us today. It may have been a long time coming, but I do hope it's valued and encourages the current team to aspire to such success. There was a quote going around at the time which said, "Dreams do come true," and will again. Let's make some dreams come true, people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Michael Dixon.
Hi, Sheriff, Mr Mayor, honourable guests, fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the group of 19 Conservative councillors to fully support conferring the honorary freedom of the city upon the Sunderland AFC members involved in the 1973 FA Cup win. For all of us who were there at the time to experience the excitement of the games, and I was fortunate enough to be at 7 of the 9 games, including the final itself, those 5 months of 1973 were like a roller coaster ride that we never wanted to end. For the FA Cup back then was the premier competition. Attendances shot up for the cup ties when compared to league matches. It had the glamour. Getting to the Wembley final was the stuff of dreams for fans and players alike. I'm fortunate enough to be able to recall all the matches I attended, and it's quite clear that every player contributed something very significant that led to our victory. And if time permitted, I would list them all. But the point I'd like to make is that our FA Cup victory was no fluke. This was a 9-game campaign. We had to overcome Cup favourites Manchester City, and after managing a draw at their place in the replay at Roker Park, which we won 3-1, we were absolutely magnificent. and Manchester City had beaten Liverpool in the previous round and were the cup favourites. In our semi-final victory against a powerful Arsenal team, we so outplayed them in the first half with our forwards in full flow that we could easily have been 3-0 up at half-time. And I'm looking at Vic Hallam there because he was absolutely brilliant that day. And then to the final itself, the team had a massive number of very vocal Sunderland supporters at Wembley right behind them. Nothing changes, it's the same today, with tens of thousands back home glued to the television and radios. The streets of Sunderland were deserted. And truth be told, the overwhelming majority of football followers in the country were rooting for us, not just because we were the underdogs, but because very few football fans remotely liked the Leeds United in those days. I don't know whether this came through to the players, but certainly for the fans, it did. And there was, as Jimmy Montgomery will remember, and Bobby Kerr later in the 60s, an intense rivalry between the two clubs, with most of the matches I saw from the early 60s onwards, even as a young lad. It was clearly obvious there was absolutely no love lost between the teams and the managers, and the matches were not for the faint-hearted, both on and off the pitch. So that added spice to the final. And we won it. Our final victory against a very strong Leeds side was absolutely magnificent, and in the decades that have followed has continued to be remembered with immense pride by the football supporters and people of Sunderland. It has stood the test of time as one of the most exciting of finals. Our achievement gained national respect. Tonight's award is fully deserved, not only for the cup final result itself in footballing terms, but also because with their achievement, the players brought together thousands of people, irrespective of income, occupation, where they lived, age and gender, providing a magical time for them to live in Sunderland and be proud of their town as it was then. For the sheer joy you were able to give to others, you fully deserve our award tonight. After I talked through the idea of proposing an extension to the honorary award, and I thank Councillor Miller because I consulted with him, to include those who'd been on duty in the earlier rounds, I would like to thank the club's historian, Rob Mason, who made countless phone calls to see if this could go forward, and a gentleman called Eddie Davison, who I hope to meet up with later, with whom I exchanged several emails. We got here where we are tonight with this particular award, and I thank them for their help. Tonight is an opportunity to say to these players who have accepted the award, all of whom came through the excellent youth system we had in those days, a big thank you, and to let them know that their contribution in us getting to Wembley has not been overlooked. It is great to see all players and relatives here tonight who were involved in those memorable times, whether on the day of the final or before. The late Ian Porterfield, our goal scorer at Leeds, wrote a book after the cup final victory called The Impossible Dream. It was a great title which just about summed it up really. On May the 5th, 1973, this was an impossible dream that came true for us all. And let us pay tribute to the massive contribution that both Ian Porterfield and Billy Hughes made to our success, which we will always remember. Tonight, we honour you all for bringing the FA Cup home, but we also honour you for what that achievement has meant to our supporters, wherever they lived, but crucially to Sunderland as a town then and a city later. People came together, you gave us immense pleasure, immense pride, and a unique sense of community, plus, of course, some fantastic memories. It was the most wonderful of times and will never be forgotten. I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Does Council agree to the motion that the honorary freedom of the city be conferred upon Sunderland Association Football Club 1973 FA Cup winning team, the members as set out in the agenda? I declare the motion carried and invite the team members or their representatives in turn to receive the illuminated copies of the resolution before signing the Freedom Roll at the adjacent table. And of course, if anyone would like to take photographs, you're more than welcome to do so, but I understand we do have to be masked up. So if you just put me down as the referee, the one in the red gown, I'll be fine. Mr. Ron Guthrie, would you like to join me?
Callum to come forward, please. I'd invite Jimmy Montgomery to come forward to collect on behalf of Mickey Horswell, please. I'd invite Mrs. Linda Hughes to come forward on behalf of Mr. Billy Hughes. Thank you. I would like to invite Bobby Kerr to come forward, please. Could I invite Dick Malone to come forward, please? Could I invite Richie Pitt to come forward, please? I would like Callum Porterfield to come forward on behalf of John Ian Porterfield, please. I would like to invite Dennis Stewart to come forward, please. I would like Dave Watson to come forward, please. Could I ask Dave Young to come forward, please? And finally, on behalf of Jackie Ashurst, Brian Chambers, John Lathan, Mick McGivern and John Tones, could I invite Mr McGivern to come forward, please, to accept on behalf of the group. He took everything but didn't sign the book.
Thank you, and I'm sure you'll all join in with me in congratulations as I welcome the Sunderland Association Football Club 1973 FA Cup winning team to be members of the Roll of Honour of the Freedom of the City of Sunderland. Now then, Mr Bobby Kerr and Mr Rob Mason, the club's historian, I would like to invite you to reply on behalf of the recipients.
Well, I've had this printed out for me by my son's wife. So if you don't like it, she's sitting up there. I moved to Sunderland when I was 15, and never in a million years did I think I would be very nearly 60 years later receiving such an honour. I would be here all day thanking everyone I would want to be too, but I want to keep this short and sweet. Like myself, thank you so much. It will always be an honour and a pleasure to live in Sunderland till I die. Thank you.
It's obviously a great pleasure and privilege to be speaking here tonight with everyone. Sunderland have had many, many great teams, not just this one. Stretching back all the way to the team of all the talents, way back in the 1890s, that won the league title 3 times in 4 years. Still now, in 2022, Sunderland still remain one of the most successful clubs in the history of the game. However, since the war, only one Sunderland team has won a major trophy, and that is the team we honour here tonight. The FA Cup is the oldest football competition in the world, and in this year, its 150th year. Let us remember, the FA Cup was the brainchild of Sunderland-born C.W. Alcock. Of all the great finals since that first in 1872 between the Wanderers and Royal Engineers, of all the great finals, the 1923 final, the first ever at Wembley, known as the White Horse Final, the 1937 final when Rach Carter, Sunderland-born, brought home the FA Cup to Sunderland for the first time, the 1953 FA Cup final, the so-called Matthews final, even though South Shields-born Stan Mortensen scored a hat-trick, when Blackpool came back to beat Bolton 4-3. They were all great finals. But the most magical final of the entire 150 years of the FA Cup was the 1973 FA Cup final. And it wasn't just the final that made this team a great team, a truly great team. When they won in the 5th round replay against Manchester City, when Vic Hallam over there scored one of the greatest goals in the history of Sunderland Football Club and Billy Hughes scored the other 2, that game when Roker Park closed in 1997, after 99 years at that ground, that was the game that was voted the match of the century. In the semi-final against Arsenal, an Arsenal team bidding to be the first team since the 1880s to get to 3 consecutive FA Cup finals. They were well beaten again by Sunderland. And then, of course, in the final itself, saw Leeds, the most dominant team in the country at that time, taking on Sunderland. The entire world outside of Leeds wanted Sunderland to win. Even in Newcastle, I've got a telegram sent by the Lord Mayor of Newcastle to the Mayor of Sunderland, wishing Sunderland good luck on the morning of the final. I've got a copy of the Evening Chronicle on the night of the Cup final with a banner headline saying, "We've won," on the Newcastle Evening Chronicle. The whole world wanted Sunderland to win. Even the previous year's darling of the Olympics, the Russian gymnast Olga Korbut, came out and pronounced herself a Sunderland supporter. Nothing in the history of Sunderland puts Sunderland on the worldwide map more than the team of 73. Sunderland itself had the biggest case of cup fever ever known to the game. Shops and houses throughout Sunderland were festooned with red and white posters, red and white scarves. I couldn't see out of my front room window in Ryhope because my mum had plastered it with pictures of the team in red and white rosettes, and that was entirely typical. Sunderland certainly had plenty of stars at that time. They had Jimmy Montgomery, who made the greatest save Wembley's ever seen and arguably the greatest save football's ever seen. They had Dave Watson, who went on to win more England caps while on Sunderland's books than any other player in history. They had Dennis Stewart, who later New York Cosmos signed to replace Pelé, the greatest footballer the world has ever seen. But it wasn't a case of individuals. The big thing about Sunderland in 1973 was that they were a team who worked for each other and continued to work for each other and have continued to be lifelong friends with a brilliant camaraderie, and it's fantastic to see them all here tonight. In those games in the Cup run, they didn't mount a rearguard action against those top teams of Europe. They took them on and they beat them. It wasn't let's hang on and see if we can hit them on the break. They took them on and beat them. Ian Porterfield, as we know, scored the only goal of the game. It made him a name known throughout the world. Wherever he went, he was the man who had scored that goal for Sunderland in 1973. And as well as managing in England and Scotland, Ian managed in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, in Oman, in Trinidad and Tobago, in Ghana, in South Korea. And at the time of his sad passing, he was the manager of Armenia, the national side of Armenia. His daughter Claire asked me if I would read this on her behalf tonight. She said, "My wonderful father Ian would be beyond delighted to see you all here tonight, and so proud that all these years later, the team spirit and love for the game lives on with such fire. He was so proud of his time at Sunderland, and his love for the sport was contagious. From our family to yours, have a wonderful evening celebrating, and thank you." Sunderland's longest ever serving chairman, Sir Bob Murray, also sent a message he'd like to be read, which simply said, "This is something I really wanted to be part of, as I was instrumental in part in turning this into a reality. It is so richly deserved by you all." Manager Bob Stokoe and Jim Montgomery, as has been explained earlier, have been recognised by the city in the past. Now, as we formally recognise all of the heroes of 1973, I am really grateful to the City Council for so readily taking up my proposal to honour the heroes of 1973. I'm also really grateful that the owner and senior figures of the current football club are here tonight, and I hope that we see them all give us further reason to celebrate with promotion this season. Finally, we all know there is nothing that brings more light, more happiness, or more joy to the people of Wearside than the lads doing well. As Bob Stokoe said, "Until you've seen football on the northeast coast, you've never seen it." The team of 73 showed us something that, unless you were alive before the war, none of us have seen before or since. They brought a major trophy to Sunderland, and for that, and especially the way that they did it, in 100 years or more from now, the names of the people who've received the freedom of the city of Sunderland tonight, those names will still be cherished. They will still be loved. They will still be adored, and rightly so. The freedom of the city is richly deserved, and I commend them to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you, Rob, for that history. I was honoured at the time, and I'm old enough to have got to the match. You may remember there was a voucher system operating, and I was lucky enough to get a voucher and get a ticket, and I was down there, and you were absolutely tremendous, as you've been tonight. We're very honoured that you've come tonight. Just before I conclude the meeting, I understand that John Latham is present in the room and didn't come up when he was called. Could I ask if Mr. Latham, Mr. McGivern, and if they are here, of course, Mr. Ashurst, Mr. Chambers, and Mr. Tones, would you all like to come up for a photograph with the Freedom Scroll? And if so, gentlemen, I'll be honoured. Mr. McGivern, will you bring the scroll with you? Can I thank everyone here tonight under very difficult circumstances? COVID's got a lot to answer for, but the good thing is we're here and we're kicking and we're alive. There's been so many that have been lost. From the bottom of my heart, can I thank each and every one of that team for what you did for Sunderland. And here we are, all these years past, you're still bringing a smile to the residents of Sunderland, and you filled this hall tonight, so thank you very much. Hi, Sheriff, honourable guests and councillors, that concludes the business of the meeting, and I would like to thank you all for your attendance on this very special occasion. Can I ask those who have been invited to stay for refreshments and are staying, please remain at their tables, and those who are leaving the meeting, please do so in an orderly fashion, observing the COVID guidance once the distinguished guests have left. Thank you very much, everyone.